Hey, friends, welcome back to Notes from the Edge. I am your host, Lisa Lacy, and this is the place we have the conversations we should have been having all along. In here, we talk about the things that we're not talking about, but we should be, and we go ahead and do it. Content note for today's episode. This is going to be an honest discussion and may include topics of childhood sexual abuse, suicide attempts, addictive patterns, abusive relationships, as well as recovery from all of that trauma. So please listen with care. Take care of yourself as you listen. If you've got to pause, take a pause and circle back to it when you can, and rely on your support team. Today, we have guest Anu Verma, who is a trauma specialist, embodiment coach, author, speaker, podcaster, filmmaker, entrepreneur, and founder of Victim to Victor. Her help helps people move from survival mode, we talk about that a lot in here, into self-trust, which is what gets you out of that mode. Emotional resilience, nervous system regulation, and most importantly, she helps you with lasting transformation. She brings more than 20 years of experience across education, science, media, entrepreneurship, and personal development. Her approach combines trauma-informed perspectives, practical tools, we love things you can use right away, and the wisdom of lived experience, which we highly respect in this space. Her own life has been shaped by childhood sexual abuse, suicide attempts, addictive patterns, abusive relationships, financial manipulation, people-pleasing, overworking, and the deep need for external validation. For many years, she appeared capable and successful while living completely disconnected from herself. A defining moment came for her, and we're going to be talking about that today. Through Victim to Victor, she helps others understand the unconscious beliefs and survival patterns that are shaping their lives. Anu, welcome to Notes from the Edge. How are you today, my friend?
Wow, thank you so much. What a fantastic introduction. You absolutely
Wow.
took me back
That
on
was
my
you.
journey.
That was you.
Who
It's
was
always
that?
weird to hear other people do it for you, isn't it? You're like, I pulled over your stuff.
I'm like, whoa, this woman sounds
Like,
like
who's she
me.
talking about? Who's she talking about? Okay, we're gonna have a lot of fun today. I can tell. We're
Oh,
already
I
getting
love
some
it.
belly
Yeah.
laughs now. Okay, I knew I talk about something called high functioning survival a lot in here because for 20 years I was the six-figure earner while slowly spiraling into a bottle and eventually full
Wow.
blown mental health psychosis. So from the
Wow.
outside in your own story, you were earning the degrees, you were building the business, you were raising the kids, writing creatively, accomplishing all this stuff, extraordinary
Mm,
things. But underneath it, you were performing for the world. What was
mm.
happening for you inside you behind the scenes that nobody could see?
Wow, so much, so much. And it's only really when I was able to understand my whole life patterns, understand the impact that trauma had on me, that was when I realized what was going on internally. And I was just on autopilot. I was not living consciously or with intent. I was literally like a robot because I was so dissociated from my emotions, from my feelings, from my thoughts that I was just in do mode. So, how I live my life was literally just overworking. So I'd be working 70, 80-hour weeks. And I didn't even get tired because I wasn't aware of my feelings. Like I wasn't even in tune with what tiredness even felt like. I later on found out,
Wow, that's a big
yeah.
epiphany. Yeah, actually, I never
Mm,
got tired either. I was just a workaholic. That was my coping mechanism, is to work,
yeah.
provide, work, provide. I end up in the hospital
Pretty
with my
much.
congenital blood disease, get out of hospital on Thursday,
Wow.
back to work by Monday. So, and
Oh,
yeah, sometimes we
amazing.
don't have language for it when
Mm,
we are in the middle of it. And that's why I
mm,
feel like it's so important for people like you and I to be having these conversations. So
mm.
people do go, oh, am I doing that? You
Wow.
know, I have
Awesome.
all of these things on the wall. I have this
Mm,
number in my bank account, but I am still
exactly.
very very miserable, right?
Yes, and that's exactly how it was. And, I found out what dissociation is, and it's a huge trauma response. And that's exactly how I lived my life. I was literally dissociated. And so I just, again, a lot of this is a cultural way that I was raised as well, because it was all about status and it was all about how we perceive to look to the world. And it was all about, making sure that we looked like we were successful. So I was then like just literally trying to gain as many qualifications as I could, as many certificates as I could. I had this folder of certificates, and the more I was spending out on qualifications, and the more I thought it made me like look like I was successful, but I was depleted. I didn't feel successful. Everybody thought I was successful because of the fact that I was earning so much money and I was having all these qualifications. And I wasn't. I felt so down. I absolutely hated myself because I didn't know who I was. I lost my whole sense of identity. And I had all the trauma responses. So
Well,
as
no,
a way from
I want to circle you back to, because
mm,
I want people to understand. You mentioned disassociation 2 times. And so I think
mm,
it's important not to gloss over that, because there could be
yeah,
some people that are
mm,
disassociated, completely disconnected from their own lives right now, listening today
mm,
and not even
mm,
know it. So, what is a
exactly.
disassociation as a trauma response? And for you, in your lived experience,
Mm.
what did that look like?
For me, yeah, it was that. It was just the fact that I was on autopilot. I wasn't in tune with what was going on internally. I wasn't able to understand my internal responses. And so I had obviously what I perceived was a way of living, but then what was going on internally was totally separate. Like there could have been two totally different people.
Hmm.
And yeah, so that's basically how I felt. I suppose a lot of people have different ways that they dissociate. So, it's not going to be the same for everybody, I'm sure.
Well,
I
and
don't
that
know
brings up
about,
another point. Trauma is part of the human experience, my friends. We all have it to
mm,
varying degrees for obvious reasons once we hear and take the time to actively
mm,
listen to each other's stories. But it's going to be part of the human experience, and we all deal with it differently. So if you are
mm,
comparing yours to someone else's and going, well, it wasn't that bad, because it's not that,
exactly.
please don't,
Mm,
right? Like
no,
if there
absolutely.
is something in your life that's gnawing, going, there is more for me, then I promise you
Mm,
there is more for you. And I like that description of, it was like two different lives, two different people,
yeah.
the internal world and
Hmm.
then the external world, the face, the
Yeah.
veneer, right? For me, it was the
Mm,
polished veneer, the pretty Facebook picture. I mean, when I got out of
yep.
my second marriage, people were like, what was happening? I was like, this. And they were like, no way. I was like, yes,
Wow.
yes, it was all
Wow.
happening. So,
What? Yes.
yes, exactly. You get out and
That's
you're like, this has been
it.
going on the whole time, guys. Sorry, forgot to mention it to you because I didn't know. And they're like, no. Some people didn't even believe me. I was like,
No,
yes, I
exactly.
promise you. Those were
This.
pictures to keep up appearances, guys. Yes.
Oh my goodness.
So
Yeah. Oh my God.
don't believe
I
what
feel
you
like.
see on Facebook.
And I
We're
feel like,
not
yeah, we're,
publishing our worst days on Facebook, guys. We're not.
we're
We're
not, are
not.
we? And I just wish more
We're
people did. It's like, come on,
I
show
know.
me what's really going on behind
I
closed doors. Come on.
know. I know. People would feel so much less alone. They really would. People,
Oh,
if we were,
honestly.
I mean, not trauma dumping on each other, but just going, hey,
Wow.
I'm not fine
Yeah.
today. I'm having an off day. Things
This
like
is,
that.
yeah.
So
Oh God.
you describe reckless behavior, addictive patterns, overworking, people pleasing, and constantly seeking external validation. I love that one,
Mm,
as self
mm,
destruction disguised as coping.
mm.
What needs were all those behaviors trying to meet that wasn't happening for you?
I guess it was, just a need to be seen, to be validated, to be accepted by somebody. So what I would do is enter into some very toxic relationships with some very toxic people because of the fact that I just wanted to feel that feeling of acceptance because I didn't accept myself. I hated myself. And so, what's going to happen is when we're struggling with such low self worth that I was, where I didn't even understand what my needs were, what my values were, and what made me happy, then I just find there's a certain type of person who's drawn to that. They can see that, just how low you actually feel. And
Yeah,
so,
it's a red flashing sign on our forehead. They see
exactly,
it.
exactly.
Yes, they
So
see it.
vulnerable, yeah,
Yes,
vulnerable,
yes, yes.
empathic. And so it was, yeah. So a lot of my partners ended up being very controlling, very manipulative. I found out afterwards about what narcissism was. I know that term's thrown around a lot, but come on, real narcissistic relationships are so damaging. And I just wish more people knew about it. Um, but yeah, I entered into one of those relationships, and every relationship was just damaging me more. So, common themes in those relationships was people pleasing because I didn't know who I was. So as long as I kept them happy, then that made me feel wanted. It made me feel accepted. And I guess it's that dopamine rush that I got from these people because I didn't feel worthy of it anyway.
Well,
So
and for me, it was that if I do all of this, they're not gonna leave. They're not gonna
mm,
abandon me. So
true.
I think
Mm,
you people pleasing is an interesting way for us to manipulate unconsciously, but
mm,
still, it's a form of getting our needs met in a very toxic way. But yeah, if
mm,
we're other focused, them, we don't have a single second to spend
yeah.
on. The first time I heard the term wants and needs, like, Lisa, what are your wants and needs, was in inpatient rehabilitation
Um,
for alcoholism.
mm.
And I went in thinking, well, I might have a bad marriage and a slight drinking problem, and came out with a chart like this thick. And
Wow.
she goes, Lisa, what are your wants and needs? And I was like, I swear I thought she was speaking a foreign language because it had
Wow.
never crossed my mind that I had them. So
Mm,
you're bringing up a very, very important piece of the healing puzzle. So for you,
mm,
Anu, in your own journey, when did you realize, whoa, I've got I've got what do I want? What are my values? And I've got wants and needs, and
mm.
they're not being met in this. What happened for you? What was the beginning of your transformative journey?
Wow, I was actually taking a former partner to court. This narcissistic relationship that I entered into, he financially abused me. And that was kind of my turning point because by that point, I'd had enough. I literally reached a point in my life where I was like, right, I'm not going to have any more crap happen to me. And I decided to take him to court, which was a very stressful experience because I felt like I was all on my own because obviously I hadn't told people about what had happened. So everything was just suppressed. And I felt a lot of shame around it, the fact that I chose this person. And I did it all on my own. And I went through a lot of stress during that period. However, I won. And it was the first time when I was stood in that courtroom and the judge basically called him out. She could tell he was lying. She asked me to confirm the story, and I did. And she ruled in my favor. And it's the first time that I just felt like, well, somebody actually believed me. And I just felt this beautiful sense of empowerment, which first time in my life, I'd never felt that before. And I remember just walking out of that courtroom, he was so angry, like he literally just huffed and puffed and, just ran out of that courtroom because he couldn't take that somebody had beat him. And for me, it wasn't even about the money, the fact that he still paid me back to this day. Like every month, I still see money coming into my account. But it was just, I felt like I needed that win in order for me to then understand that I am worth something, I am enough and that I am loved. And that was my turning point. And that's when I started to really raise my standards and I started to learn about all the belief systems that I had which were holding me back, and the beliefs that I had to now try and erase and form new beliefs about myself. And there was a lot of tools which helped me to do that. There were a lot of programs that I went on to do that. And it was just a beautiful journey from then on. Obviously, it wasn't easy because I kept getting triggered and, flashbacks from the PTSD that I had suffered. However, we all have to start somewhere. And I do find there's always this one moment which gives us that chance to make that decision to want to change. For some people, it's hitting rock bottom, but for some people like me, it's winning at something. Uh,
Yeah, and what I love about your story is you had all these degrees, you had the dollars in the bank account, you had the certs, you had everything externally, but it took somebody witnessing you for
mm,
you to go, okay, I'm on to something here. I'm going to keep
yeah.
going on this healing
Mm,
journey. It's amazing what being witnessed
mm,
in our being witnessed at the beginning of our healing journey can really do for us.
yeah.
For me, again, I turned 40. I'm now 50. I turned 40 in inpatient rehabilitation.
Mm,
Again, going in for what I thought were very minor problems that were not so minor problems, but it
mm,
was being witnessed in there, uh, being heard, being
mm,
listened to, that really changed. So my friends out there, witness each other as human beings
mm,
as much as we possibly can. And I'm not talking about external validation. You are, you are, you are. I mean, just be there, be here, be present, actively listen, really, really hear and believe one another. And you're right, Anu, trauma bonding. I've been through a lot.
mm,
Trauma
mm,
bonding was one of the it felt like death getting out of
mm,
that trauma bonded
mm,
relationship with somebody who was clinically diagnosed with NPD. And unless it's
mm,
something that you've actively been through, I think it's really hard to understand what a mental game that plays on your already weakened self-esteem and self-worth. So yeah, you've hit on some very good points. So you won. Yay, go get them. I love that. I
Woo!
still love that there's still a check rolling in too. It's like, even if it's 25 bucks, it's still like, you got to write that check. You still thinking about me, aren't
Exactly.
you? Yes, you thinking about what you
Exactly.
did. I love that. I love that. So you have said that you confused being desired. Oh, this is good. This is juicy.
Mm,
You have said that you, in your lived experiential wisdom, confused being desired with being valued.
mm.
So, how can childhood trauma distort that? And talk to us about the difference first, and then tell us what sometimes in childhood, how that can get distorted for us.
So, well, I thought that attention meant love. So if somebody gave me attention, that was it. I was hooked, because it was that feeling that they gave to me. And sadly, it's the feeling that I also got when I was younger, being sexually abused by a tenant. I was like 3 and 4 years old. And the attention that he obviously gave me showed me that he cared for me, and he showed me attention and love. And so that obviously confused me growing up because I just thought if anybody gave me any attention, then that's what it meant. Because whatever we did together, it was a secret. I kept it a secret because I trusted in him. And that unfortunately also led to me feeling very suppressed, sorry, for all of my life, where I just wasn't able to talk about anything. I kept so many things hidden because that's how he taught me to live my life. And so it's huge. Whatever goes on in our childhood, it absolutely conditions the way that we live our lives and how we see the world, which is why I'm so huge on childhood trauma and the impacts that it has on us, because I didn't even know what healthy love actually really looked like. So I'd always think that I'd have to sleep with a man as soon as I met them, because I associated giving my body to them as love. And it was only really in my 30s that I started to really understand that what self-respect actually meant. Having respect for ourselves and holding ourselves to a standard where we just don't let anybody in unless they've earned it. So,
That we're
yeah.
worthy of them earning it. I always say our
Mm,
energy is a privilege. It's a
yeah,
gift, and not everybody gets access to it. And that's just energy, that's just
100%.
energetic. And it
Mm,
took
it
many,
is.
many, many years to get to that place. And
Mm,
again, our patterns will continue to repeat. Those childhood
yeah.
patterns will continue to repeat. And I think the place they show up the most is in our relationships and in
Yeah.
our most intimate relationships until something happens and it's
Mm,
a stomach full for all of us. Some of us it takes 3 years, some of us it takes 30 years, and it's all okay. But
yeah.
we eventually get our stomach full and go, okay, now it's time to change this because this doesn't feel good. Right. And there
Mm,
is
mhm,
more for me. And so, my friends, if you're
mm,
out there right now and there's a gnawing on you going, there is more for me out there. I promise you there is. That gnawing was placed on you, on your heart by God, Goddess, divine source, energy, whatever it is that you believe that to be for you, but it's not accidental. So pursue that and pursue transformational coaches. They were the game changers for me. I had done all
mm,
the therapy rite of passage, looking backwards as until it was just exhaustive to look backwards, but it was transformational coaches like yourself that was actually
mm,
the hump over into, okay, now I like waking up today. Now I dig who I am as a person. And I think that's an important place to get to too, when you
mm,
can go, I used to hate myself and drown myself in a bottle while I was making I had the house, the cars, the boats, the toys, the perfect family.
mm,
But while I was slowly killing myself into, wow, everything's not perfect, but I dig who I am as a person and I can enjoy my own company. It sounds so simple,
mm,
but boy, it can take a lifetime for us to practice getting there.
mm,
So, values. Let's talk about values for a minute because that's another
mm.
juicy word. So, talk to me about
Right.
values and how you discovered your own.
Wow. So I had to understand that I was valued first of all, and that what was important to me in life. I used to think it was external, validation, achievements, and portraying to people how successful I was. However, as I started to understand the work of values, I realized that it was self love, it was acceptance, it was having so much respect for myself that I just wouldn't let anybody ever mistreat me again.
Mhm.
And I just feel that you have to do that. You have to do the work. If anybody is suffering from trauma, then by doing the work, you become self aware. And once you know yourself, then you won't settle for anything less. And so it
Yeah.
is all intertwined. So that's what I realized was self-love was my number one value. And I had to honor that. And I had to keep doing the work, which I am still doing to this day. I value myself so much now that I have like micro practices that I perform on a daily basis because I know that it's what I need to keep me sane and also to live a much more fulfilling life.
It
So
is, it's
that's,
daily
mm,
practice. And you opened
mm,
up this conversation with very important information for us. And that was that you used to be on autopilot and you were not
mm,
making conscious, intentional choices and decisions.
mm,
And through that self awareness and through that self respect, that's where we start getting to, because it's a get to. We get to, oh, I get to make
mm,
this choice not on autopilot, but because I think it's going to serve me well and serve the people I love, care about, and serve really well too. So that's one of the byproducts of doing this work that is absolutely daily practice. For me, it started
Mm,
with one thought. I had to reframe the thought, I'm so stupid, into I'm actually a highly intelligent woman. And then it was just
mm,
off from there. So, and now I have a new default, a new download operating system. It doesn't even cross my mind anymore. But I want to let people know too that guess what? Trauma recovery does not have to be a trudge. It does not have to take years and years and years on end. And it can be fun if you find the right fit to work with. It can be, you can
mm.
belly laugh your way through it. In fact, I highly suggest you to belly laugh. As a matter of fact, if your trauma hasn't given you a dark sense of humor, you're probably doing something a little wrong there. So you're going to have to laugh at some of this stuff because some of it's like, I did what? Okay, not beating yourself up, but laughing at it. You can laugh at it. So,
Absolutely.
Anu, you have also been very open about something that we really highlighted the last few weeks, and that was surviving
Mm,
suicide attempts and
mm,
realizing that you didn't necessarily want your life to end, but you just wanted the pain to stop.
mm.
What do you feel like people misunderstand the most about that level of hopelessness?
I just hate it when people say, "Oh, they're so selfish," that they want to end their lives. They've got
Mm,
kids, and I just think, "Oh my God, these people, they're going through the toughest time of their lives. They've obviously hit rock bottom, which is why they want to end their lives." And then you
mm,
have to ask yourself, what is going on internally? Why is it that they want to end their lives? And I just obviously remember what was happening for me, and I never wanted to end my life when I was sober. I'd always be highly like intoxicated, whether it was recreational drugs that I was taking or tons of alcohol. Because when I took, when I wasn't in a sober state, then I just felt my inhibitions had gone, and then I was actually able to feel. And so those were the only times that I did feel, and the only feelings that I had were of pain. They were just like negative emotions and feelings. And it got so bad. There was a few times that it got really bad that I just kept taking drugs. I remember it was like ecstasy at the time, and then I'd be drinking loads, and I'd end up in A&E and casualty. It happened on a few incidences, and every time I survived. And I remember the doctors and nurses being around me, just like, what's going on? Why did you do that? And there was a few incidences of drug rape as well. So I ended up in hospital quite a few times, and it was all drug induced, and hence why I didn't really talk about it, because I blamed myself. So there's a shame, the self blame, the guilt, is right there, which is why it's so hard to talk about it as well. And that's what happened. So when I reflect back at what was happening to me, that's what I see in people who I see today, who are not happy with their lives. They're struggling internally, and they just genuinely believe that there's no way out.
yes.
And yeah,
Yes,
that's
they genuinely believe there's no way out. It's not
mm,
necessarily that they want out, it's they don't see a way out. And
mm,
it's a fine line, but there's a big difference there. And so what we had talked about last week with Harold Asman, who is the CEO of the World Mental Health Forum, is the words I'm here, because sometimes it's uncomfortable when you finally do admit to yourself that you're struggling and then go to another human being. Please make sure they've
mm,
proven themselves to be a safe human being for you, as in showing up for you in the past in supportive ways. Once
mm,
you do open up, what can people who are, because it's awkward and it's uncomfortable and people don't know what to say, and
mm,
it's enough to just be there. It's enough to just be there. And then you guys can decide what best next steps are in terms of
mm,
is treatment needed? Is there a place that Is there a step that needs to happen next? Because sometimes just having somebody that you can articulate that level of hopelessness to without them judging you,
Mm,
without them trying to fix you, and without them offering unsolicited advice can actually be enough, at least in my own experiences. That has
mm,
been enough. So please, by all means, if you are struggling, um, open up to yourself first, then open up to another safe person. Call 988. We'll put that in this episode too for you if you are struggling with these thoughts right now. But it has
mm,
been my experience that it was very much the same thing. I just saw
mm,
no way out, but just wanted
mm,
out of where it was at that moment. That changes
mm.
so quickly because our moments
Yeah,
change so quickly.
true.
So let's
Yeah.
get to the work that all of this has now gotten you to, in terms of
Mm,
you helping people who feel that emptiness and that loneliness and that hopelessness and that childhood trauma. It's called Victim to Victor. Talk to
mm.
us about Victim to Victor and how that came about and how you work with people.
Yeah. So Victim to Victor started from my book, which I wrote on the back end of my journal, which became an 80-page document, which I then decided to convert into a 4-part book, which involved not only my story, but it also involved all the healing modalities that help me to heal, and it became a bit of an educational tool as well. So a bit of like a self-help book for people. And then on the back end of that, I started a podcast the following year. Again, the same name, Victim to Victor. And that was purely based on the fact that I'd written about my trauma, but I still wasn't able to speak about it. I was still highly distressed. And it was because my throat chakra was totally blocked. And so the only way around fear and around, overcoming any obstacles is to slowly do it, get yourself in those situations slowly but surely. And that's what I started to do with my podcasting. I just thought, this is going to be a great way for me to now start talking about these issues. And I'm 235 episodes in now. I've just finished season
Yay.
2 of that. And yeah, and this is why I thought, okay, why did I start guesting as well?
I
Because
love
I
it.
just I just find like every just like every year, it's, you learn something new about yourself and you awaken to another part of yourself which you hadn't seen before. And this is why I just feel, I've got a huge growth mindset, and I feel like when we do have a growth mindset, then we can achieve so much in life. And that's exactly what I'm out here doing, it helping people to understand their life patterns and the consequences of trauma. I've got a 12-week coaching program as well, where I like to empower people to also become victors of their own life. And within that program as well, I implement a lot of the techniques that I've learned through my traumatology course and through all my healing modality courses, because I just find that healing is a holistic approach. It's not just sitting there, doing your cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what I was diagnosed. It's more than that. It involves the body, it involves the spirit and the soul. So we have to look at every part of our body if we want to truly heal. And
We
I just
do.
get
And what
people,
I
yeah,
love about what your approach tackles is the fact that healing is not one size fits all.
no.
If there's a therapeutic acronym, I did it. I did it all. I did a couple hundred grand
Mm,
worth, 20,000 hours in session, and I was still waking up feeling pretty rough.
yeah.
And it was transformational coaching because of the different modalities that were used
Mm,
that
mm,
actually helped me um, move forward. Transformational coaches are very forward momentum oriented. And that's what I
mm,
love about the work that it is that we do.
Yeah.
In
Mm,
because again, it's not one size fits all. And I love to tell people, build your own toolbox, take what works, leave what doesn't, take a little of this, a little of that. And it is a
mm,
holistic approach. And I love the fact that you mentioned our soul, you mentioned our spirit. So often we
mm.
become completely disconnected from that pivotal
We
piece.
do.
It is my spirit that drives me today. It is my
Mm,
spirit that is keeping me here today. And I think when we are feeling so hopeless and so empty, we lose sight of how
mm,
expansive we truly, really are, and how much we can overcome in order to fulfill
mm.
our purpose and our meaning and our mission here. So, my
Yeah.
friends, if there's a gnawing on your heart, it was placed there by the divine. Listen to that and get the healing that you need so that you can live that life of meaning and purpose, because it'll help you. And we're not up here saying that you're not going to have off days still. That's why it's a
Mm,
practice.
yeah.
But what I can tell you is you certainly get better at mediating and managing the external factors that are going to come your way without self-destructing your life in the meantime. So, Anu, where can people find your work and you? Where can they find you?
Oh. Come along to my socials. I'm quite active on Instagram. Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. You'll probably see this episode advertised on there at some point over the next few days.
I love it.
uh,
Oh yeah, it's posting today, by the way.
yeah,
And we're
oh,
gonna post
excellent.
everything. Yeah, we're gonna post everything for everybody. So you guys just click the links that are attached here. And
Brilliant.
Anu, before we wrap up with all of our guests, we asked 2 questions. The first question is, what did you perform in your life in order to survive? And what happened for you when you dropped the role mask or performance? What did you perform?
Wow. I guess I was performing that I was healed.
Yeah.
Probably all my life, I made out that I was a strong, independent, successful woman, but I wasn't. And I didn't understand that vulnerability actually meant you're strong. Because back then I thought if I showed any vulnerability, then people would think I'm weak. So it's the opposite of what I'm thinking now.
Yes, we can absolutely perform strength. We can. It
Mm,
can become one of the biggest performances of our lives. So I love that as
mm,
an answer, performing strength. And what do you wish we were having more open conversations about without shame or judgment?
mm. I just wish we were talking more about things that have happened to you, any traumatic incidences, any real emotions that come up. Let's talk about it because we're not all happy. It's not like we see on Instagram, like happiness and, oh, look how great my marriage is and look how beautiful my family are. No, we need to see the struggles. We need to see the realness of living. Messy. Why can't we just be more honest about that? Sometimes with my posts, I'm dead honest, and I feel like I'm being a bit of a drag because because how honest I am.
Like,
So
I'm
I
not
just
okay today. I'm not okay today. Yeah. And we're not saying like trauma dump on everybody all day long, but
no,
friends, it's okay if somebody says, "How are you today?" for you to go, you know what? I'm kind of having an off day today. I'm not feeling so great. Better than
exactly.
I'm fine.
I'm
I'm fine.
fine.
Yeah, that was my
Life's
favorite. I'm
great.
fine. Yep, it's great. Living the dream. I like
And then
that one.
tomorrow,
Living the
and then
dream. Yeah.
yeah, and tomorrow they're on a bridge. They want to end their lives. Come on, we've seen that so many times, haven't we?
Yes. Yes.
Sadly.
Yes. We're
Mm,
losing we're losing so many people because we're not having these open and honest
mm,
conversations. And in some cases, that's all it takes. Again, a safe
mm.
space to say, I'm not okay, without
Yeah,
judgment and without
mm,
shame.
absolutely.
So the more you and I keep talking about it, the more we'll create spaces for other
Yeah,
people to keep talking about
excellent.
it. Well, Anu,
It's bit,
thank you so much. And my friends out there, please keep asking yourself, what did you perform in order to survive? And
mm,
is it still serving you? And if it's not, what amazing things can happen in your life if you drop the mask for performance. In the meantime, we'll catch you on your edge. See you next time.